So there it goes. I think we are streaming. Okay. No, it's running me through the hoop again.
Oh, sweet.
Setting up, done, redirecting to Facebook Live page.
No, it says Rachel live.
You can see that I'm live?
Yeah,
So,
I'm watching you live.
okay, so there's a glitch. But hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 21. We are officially legal to drink. Maybe we should have a cocktail on the show. Actually, it's more than 21 because we started tracking around episode 6-ish, 4, 5, 6. We started keeping track. So this could be
Probably.
episode 26 or something. Anyway,
So morning drinking, is this what it is Friday, so
it is. I got a long day. I'll have a celebratory cheers with my coffee cup. Cheers. We'll lie and say there's Bailey's in there, but alcohol during the
Diet
day for
Coke.
me equals a nap. Yeah. All right.
Me
Cheers.
too. How do people tailgate all day? If you're an all-day tailgater, how do you do that and not nap?
Dude, at the Sunday fun day people who like go out and start with a Bloody Mary at 10 o'clock and then just park their ass
Yeah.
in the car all day. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't. Maybe they go home
I'm
and
jealous.
take a nap. So I don't see any. Oh, let me try going over here. And then we'll do our little disclaimer. I keep getting offered to register to vote on Facebook, which is hilarious because
So do I. I want a button that says I've been registered to vote since I was 18.
18.
Stop.
Cool. Done. Yes. Same.
I mean,
Samesies.
I don't need this. Not only do I not need it today, I don't need it ever. I wish I could block that reminder, like you could block ads you don't like. But okay, do your disclaimer.
Okay, so welcome to episode 21 of the Rachel and Cassandra show at our new Friday location. I am here to talk at you about real estate stuff, and my area of expertise is Southeast Michigan residential real estate. A lot of what I say, and this is true for Cassandra too, is going to sound like legal advice or financial advice. And I am here to tell you I am not an attorney. I am not a financial advisor. So do not conflate what I say with legal advice or financial advice. However, it is real estate advice, and it's only important and relevant for right now because like so many industries, the landscape is constantly changing. So what I tell you makes sense today might not make sense in 6 months. Which is why it's always good to have a professional in your pocket, if you will. Have your person.
Yeah, because we like pay attention to what's changing in the market because we do it every day. And most people buy a house, what, 7 times in their life, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah, it used to be like 5 to 7 years, and now it's more like 10.
Yeah.
So if you live till you're 70, that's
people,
7 houses. Well, no, that's not because you didn't buy your first one.
What you do in a month and what I do in a month is usually what people do in their entire life.
Correct.
Let's just put it like that,
Correct.
really roughly.
Yeah, so I did the math on how many homes I go into in a year, and it was because I tell people, oh, it doesn't matter, it's a fucking rabbit trail, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes, which means I've been in tens of thousands. No, that can't be right.
That seems high.
Well, okay, so let's say if I have to show about, let's say 17 homes for every one I sell, but some of them I list, so I'm going to reduce that number. I would say it's fair to say 11 times about 50 a year on average across my career, because I do more than 50 transactions a year right now. So that's 550 homes per year times, I've been doing this for 7 years. 3,850 homes I've been in, if my math is correct. And I'd say that's probably spitting distance. So thousands.
I've done numbers on thousands of homes, scenarios,
yeah.
more. For some houses I do 5 to 6.
Yeah.
And some people look at 10 houses. I'm not doing the numbers because it'll be sad. And this is why I can't math sometimes. Some days I'm just burnt out.
Yes.
I can't do math.
And this is not even our stated topic, which we will get to, which is insurance. I hate insurance so bad that I'm avoiding talking about it right now. I'd rather talk about other things.
Joel's not in the waiting room, is he?
No, he's not.
Is he joining us?
Nope.
Okay.
He's supposed to be, but we're talking about this with or without him. What was I going to say? Oh, the running the numbers. So, hey, if for anybody watching, keep this piece of information in your pocket if you don't already know it. Sometimes you can't get a loan for an amount of money that's too small. And it's like a thing that nobody knows. I am talking to a client who has a property to sell, and she's like, well, you know, low income borrowers with an FHA loan or something like that came out of my seller's mouth. And I was like, wait, the price point that you're going to be listing at is lower than anybody will loan on. And she's like, what do you mean? That seems oppressive to poor people, basically. And I was like, well, because the guidelines that are in place for lenders to loan money make it so that they can't loan that small an amount of money.
Yeah, you can thank your federal government.
Don't work out.
I can't loan
$40,000.
No, I have a
grand. Cassandra, what a steal! Can I buy it? Can you help me? Sorry.
No.
Why?
No. Because I'm going to fail the points fees test. The lender's not going to make any money. The interest rate is going to be sky high, and I'm going to, again, have another reason to fail. So there's the fees that can't exceed a certain percentage of the loan amount, the required fees. I'm talking like appraisal, title insurance, like things that cost at least $1,000 for those two items. Yes. $40,000 house. Yes. Well, if you do the math and anyway, the percentages start taking low loan amounts out of contention. And then the interest rate is so far off because there's points and fees, hits and adjusters, that it's called failing QM, which means a qualified mortgage. And if you fail the qualified mortgage rule, it's basically not deliverable. It's not saleable, which means if you want a loan amount, let's just say under 50 grand, but really under $75,000, you should probably go to get a portfolio loan from a credit union. Don't go to a bank.
Yep. And I'm going to put a hard stop on this conversation because I can feel myself getting pulled into it. I think it's an important topic, and maybe we can commit to this being our topic for next week, because I've already got Jill pointing out seller financing as an option. These are so many rabbit trails we can go down, because yes, there are other ways to finance, and many of them penalize a borrower trying to buy in that price range, which is again why you end up with like cash or loan shark or creative other solutions. But we're here to talk about insurance.
Investors buy all the low dollar properties and rent them, which pays for way higher because people can't buy them. So I mean,
people can't buy them with a mortgage.
Yeah, it's a whole different discussion.
Yeah, and definitely worth discussing, because I remember finding this out from you and being like, wait, what? And when I bring that out into my marketplace, other people are like, wait, what? And we have a joiner today. While he's connecting, I'm going to introduce Joel Christner, who's
his microphone's off.
Mortgage person. I know, I don't want him talking yet. You are muted, Joel. So because we're talking about insurance today, we have an insurance professional joining us, and Joel is actually my insurance guy. So he, unfortunately, at least twice a year has to listen to me lose my fucking mind about insurance. I hate that I have to have it. I believe that it exists because it's a law that it has to exist, and their job is to always try and figure out how to not pay a claim.
Are you going to unmute him?
I said ask to unmute. He has to do it himself. Joel, hit the unmute button on your screen.
There we go.
Yeah, I can't hear you. You're not muted, but we can't hear you. Is there a button on your headset? I can't hear you. Is there a button on your headset that you can push? Because mine has one. No. Well, we're going to talk about Joel like he's not in the room.
I have so many questions for Joel. I was so excited. He's going to feel so barraged.
When he gets up and running. So, maybe we could use this time to see if anybody has questions about insurance. Please post them in the comments, because we have a guy who can probably answer them. One of the things that I want to make sure we touch on too is a clue report, because it was a thing that I didn't even know existed, and it's kind of like a fucking Carfax for your house. And I don't understand why I can't, as an agent, have access to that. I'm looking for an insurance guy who will do that for my clients. Oh, poor Joel.
Your microphone's muted.
Unplug your, can you unplug your cable? You did.
But his mic is muted.
Oh, it is now. Yes, you're back to red, Joel. I'm going to hit ask to unmute. Do you have now you are showing as unmuted and we can't hear you.
So I'll wait for Joel's audio to start because I don't hear him yet. So give him time to work on that. The clue report, I think, tells you about claims on the house.
Yes. So this is made up bullshit based on what I think I know, but I am under the impression that the insurance agents have access to basically a Carfax that goes back 5 years on your house. So this is what I tell my clients, and I could be totally wrong. Can't hear you, Joel. You're still muted. Yeah. Ask to unmute. Why do some insurance? Okay, Joel's got. Okay, once Joel comes up, Joel will. Oh my God, I got too much input. I got Joel still muted. Jill asking a question, and I'm trying to say a thing. Here's what I tell my sellers. If you are filling out your seller disclosure and you lie, let's say one of the specific questions is, has there been evidence of water in the basement? And if a seller says no, and the buyer buys that house and the basement floods and they call their insurance company, that insurance company is going to be able to see if there was a claim for a flooded basement on that house within the last 5 years. And that's going to affect the new owner's rates, but it also is evidence that you lied on your freaking seller disclosure. So don't do it.
I think Joel just told me about a house. This kid was purchasing a house. Everything looked brand new.
Yep.
And he said, hey, there was a $15,000 or $35,000 claim on this, a year and a half ago. And I was like, what? And I told the buyer's agent, pardon?
Did it burn to the ground and get rebuilt or something?
No, there was so apparently it was a flood in the kitchen, which explained all of the new kitchen cabinets and the new countertops, right? Yep. It was not on the seller's disclosures anywhere.
So the seller was trying to misrepresent. Do you have to disclose? I don't want to go down a rabbit trail of what you do and don't have to disclose, but if you are filling out a seller disclosure, don't lie, because that document protects you as the seller from being sued. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
People would rather find out that your kitchen flooded and you filed the claim and had it rebuilt than to find out later that you pretended it didn't happen.
That you just put in all new cabinets because you're such a great person.
Yeah.
Right.
So Joel, I'm going to try something here just because you're still muted. Like on the Zoom app, you're muted.
Your mute keeps going on and off. I mean, audio aside, you have to be unmuted.
I am sending you a link to join the call. If maybe you want to try it from a different device, I'm sending it through Facebook Messenger.
Oh, he could call in.
Yeah, you could also call in. That way we'd hear you.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway.
Oh, well, I have questions for Joel and he can't even answer them. Why, no. Rachel, why do you hate insurance so much?
Because I think in part programming from my father. I grew up listening to my dad bitch about insurance. I do feel like,
but I don't hate insurance.
The giant
we have the same dad.
Ponzi scheme. I know, but you're asking me that's why people are different from the same household, right? Oh, there, now we can see you and you're connecting to audio. Because I pay, because there have been enough times in my life that I've needed insurance and they tell me, fuck you, we're not covering that. And I pay exorbitant amounts of money. It seems to me, for a promise of having to fight to have something covered. My policy is this thick and it's basically a description of everything they won't do. So I feel like it would be easier if you just gave me a list of shit that you will do. So I know so I can avoid this frustration. And it's so much like carefully languaged language. And I know, listen, I deal with legal contracts all the time. It's so much carefully worded language to make sure, probably because people commit insurance fraud.
Yes.
Joel,
There we go.
There he is.
We got you. So listen,
All right.
Joel,
So
hold up.
iPhone is the magic button here. So
Turn off the computer because we've got two of you and it's really mind fucky.
how about that? Are we out?
I still see two of you.
Okay. I just took it off.
Yeah.
Anyway, the iPhone is good. So yes, welcome and thank you.
No, thank you guys for being patient and letting me figure that out. I thought, oh, I'll just go on 2 minutes and then anyway. So
yeah, no, this is a half hour of your life at least, and we've had our own share of tech shit. So
okay.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start? Well, first of all, thank you for that. You guys are great. I appreciate the opportunity. You guys ask questions or whatever you want. The clue report is auto and home, by the way.
oh, really? Is it better than a Carfax?
No, Carfax really has to do more with like damage, right, and maintenance records that might have.
You can see maintenance records?
If you run a Carfax, you can, but like a clue report basically pulls back accidents that might be on the vehicle, or like towing claims, glass claims, things like that. So that's what the clue report does for that.
So my flat
Is
tire that I had called you and made you call a tow truck or whatever. Do you remember my stupid flat tire?
Yes.
That's going to show up.
It will show
Lincoln.
up. Yep, it'll show up. I'm trying to get rid of all this other stuff that's on there.
You're good.
It's gone.
It's gone.
You're good.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but it shows up as a tow, right? It doesn't show up as anything else.
Right.
So
regionally, so say you see claims, can you geographically go, oh my God, there's a lot of break-ins in vehicles in this particular zip code and therefore insurance will be higher? Just even if you've never had it, like you're buying in a zip code where shit gets broken into.
Yep. So that is not really in relation to the clue report, but it does affect the rate, right? Because rate, here's a good way. Insurance is the law of large numbers, right? I think you guys all have a good understanding of that. So if you buy in a zip code that has a lot of break-ins, right? Where insurance companies are paying out a lot of claims, then yes, your rate will reflect that, because the likelihood of that happening again is high, right? Things you can do to offset that are, do you have a security system, right? Deadbolts, things like that. And
Does
those
my
are
dog
all.
count?
What's that?
Does my dog count?
No, your dog does not count.
She probably causes my rate to go up, actually.
No, she does not. She does not.
Should.
We are actually one of the only companies, okay, and that do not penalize or surcharge for breed of dog. So you could have any dog with us, right?
Good, because I'm waiting to get sued.
There's no surcharge for that. And some companies do surcharge. So like Pit Bull or German Shepherd, Doberman Pinscher, things like that.
Because of the law of large numbers.
Correct.
Right? Like if the majority of, I'm putting a definition in the comments, by the way, of what clues.
And Joel, you have to drop what your company is instead of just saying my company's.
So I represent Farmers Insurance.
Okay.
Yep. And I've been with Farmers for about 14 years. Always been involved on the agent side, but I did do some corporate training for a while too. So kind of both ends of the spectrum when it comes to that.
So just because these people have been waiting to, we're kind of all over the map here, but I want to make sure we get to the comment. Jill, yours is gone. So Jill had asked earlier about why some insurance companies don't do a clue report. And is it possible that it's called something else?
It could be. Always at new business, meaning when somebody calls my agency and they are looking to buy insurance from me, we're all and the initial rate looks good and we want to move forward. There's always investigative reports that are run, right? So whether it's home or auto, the insurance company is always looking to see what's out there, right?
What do you mean?
Like if there's any claims that are out there or any things that may not have been divulged in the initial conversation, right? So
so let's put this into a real scenario. I'm
Sure.
buying a house.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to use a real scenario. I'm buying a condo. Like
Okay.
in 2 weeks, I'll be calling you to give me some
Sure.
insurance on that condo.
Okay.
What
You should
are you going to be
call
looking
them
for?
now. The sooner the better.
What
Say that.
kind of, I'm not getting a mortgage, so I don't need it at closing. Like I want it.
Right. So you don't have to, yeah, in theory, you don't have to have insurance.
Right.
You know that just as well as I do.
Right. So what, I want to do this 2 ways. What are you looking for? You just said you do whatever the hell you just said you do.
Right.
Which
Okay.
is what?
Well,
Hi, Joel.
Sure. Right. You're like, oh, I'm buying a condo. Great. What's the address? What's going on? Tell me a little bit about it. So condo kind of takes us down another whole rabbit hole.
Oh, let's pretend it's a house then, because that's what the majority of people watching this are buying houses. So I'm buying a house.
So you just tell me exactly, what you're doing. I'll most likely ask you, do you have the appraisal or something like that? You might send that to me. Then
whoa, really?
Well, sirs, I like the appraisal because it has pictures, right, on there, and I can see, because not everything is always on the on Zillow or whatever. I don't have access to the MLS, right?
Nope. If I'm an agent, I'm not including a picture of a cracked basement wall, for example.
Right. So, right, because I want to know that, because that may be something that and not to digress, but we'll go back to the situation that Cassandra brought up about, I found a $31,000 claim, right?
Yes,
that wasn't disclosed. And so sometimes that can be a roof, right? Or whatever it is. I mean, it could be anything. And I always bring that up to the mortgage broker, right? And I bring it up to the client if I've had some conversations with them. Are you aware of this? Do you know what's going on? And they may, and sometimes they may not. So back to your condo or your home, right? I'm just asking for the information. I want to know where we're at. And then I prepare a quote for you and I call you up. I discuss based off of our relationship. I know what's important to you. I know that you want to make sure if a claim happens, like to your basement or something similar, you want to make sure it's taken care of, because I know you've had that experience in the past. So we then discuss that, right? Here's what I'm suggesting, Rachel. And, then you make the decision. And you and I have a discussion of, if I choose this, what's the deductible? Is there a threshold? And some people don't care about that threshold. Some people are like, just give it to me and that's what I want. But I always talk about what's important to the client, because it's not about me, it's about the client.
Right.
And you're only calling me when something goes wrong. Yes. And when something goes wrong, you want to make sure you have the right stuff in place. And that all comes from our initial conversation.
Hey, Joel, I didn't have any disasters at my house this week. I just wanted to let you know I was another week of claim-free service. So put a star on my record.
Awesome. Best client ever. Thank you. So, but yeah, everything, and just like
my repertoire,
just like you guys, everything is about relationships, right? It's how do I understand what the client wants, and how can I put that in front of them and make that an ideal package for them? That's ultimately it. So
okay, so I had so many.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, you should.
Me too.
So
can I go?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So you mentioned that some communities, it's the aggregate of the claim, so it may be more expensive to get coverage on your home or your auto because of the zip code. What about your insurance rating? Is there a rating for a specific home other than
like
the report?
Inside my head.
Rating for just me as a person and how many claims I have?
Combination, right?
Insurance credit score, right?
Yeah. So there's
score.
There is a score, and it is tied to your credit score on some level. Okay.
Why?
It is not.
If I'm
Well,
escrowing,
Can we?
why?
Well, I don't think it really. So escrow versus paying monthly, that really has no bearing, right? On. Go ahead.
Can you just like kind of outline what I'm going to just set the stage a little bit, because
Sure.
we're talking like three professionals and somebody out there doesn't know what the fuck we're talking about.
Okay. Very good.
So you're buying a house, and much like your interest rate is determined by your credit score, it's not something you don't just go get an interest rate. Like Cassandra has stated before, you can buy whatever rate you want.
Yeah.
Your rate is your free rate is determined by what you're bringing to the table as a consumer.
Sure.
I feel like that is also true in insurance land. So my rate for Rachel buying a house is going to be potentially different than Cassandra, because I have a history of lots of claims and I have a shitty credit score. So can we talk about what factors influence my insurance score?
Sure. And I cannot speak directly about any other company, right? So I'm just telling you what Farmers really kind of looks at and what we're focused on.
So wait a minute. There's not like a third independent sanctioning body that all insurance companies call to get my score?
There is, okay, but companies use it differently.
What you do with that information?
Scores will vary company to company. Like there's 100 different credit scores you can get. Correct.
Let's say my number's 100. What Farmers does with my 100 is different than what AAA does with my 100.
Right.
How they interpret it.
Hold that thought for 1 second. So let me make sure everybody understands. Insurance law is driven by the state of Michigan or Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, whatever state you live in, right? Because there are different laws in every state. So the insurance, Department of Insurance and Financial Services in Michigan, they set the standards, right? And we have to then abide by those standards. And then we create policies inside of those standards. Okay. So I just want to make sure that Farmers isn't nobody gets the impression that we're some rogue agency. We just make up whatever the heck we want or vice versa for, State Farm or auto owners or anything else like that. Right. Everybody has to abide by the same underlying laws. Okay. So back to your point about what you were just saying, Rachel. So it's a combination, right? So we're going to take your score. Okay. And then we're going to say, where are we moving? What is the house? Is the house built in 2010 or is it built in 1910? What's the house made out of, right? The flooring, the bathrooms, the roof, the outside, all of those things. Does it have outbuildings? So we're taking all these things into consideration, right? Because basically what we're trying to do is come up with a replacement cost estimator. And
So in that bit of the replacement cost estimator, if I have higher end materials,
yes,
it's obviously going to cost more to replace my house, but is it less likely to require a claim? So how does that, like if I have a block house with stone floors, that's not going to burn.
Correct.
If I have a wood house with vinyl floors, that's cheaper to replace, but also more likely to need replacing, right?
Yes. And those are factors that we look at because construction material makes a big difference. Because like you said, most basements that we talk about, for homes that are built like 1975 and beyond, they're all cement, you know what I mean? And poured, most of the time. And if a home burns to the ground, I would say 8 times out of 10, we're not having to re-pour a basement just based off of that. Now, obviously, if we do, and we will do that. But that is built into the replacement cost estimator, right? And like you said, high-end finishes. So someone may say, look, I just remodeled my home. Even though it was built in 1980, I just put $300,000 into it. That's just a random number, right? I know. Instead of going to buy something, how about 100,000? We'll say that. But and I always ask, if you have a claim, do you want us to replace those things? Absolutely. Just like they are now? Yes. So that tells me we have to make sure that we're looking exactly what they have and indicating that on the estimator. Cassandra, what's going on?
What should I call my insurance agent and let them know if I put a new roof on or if I?
Yes.
Yes.
Anything that you do to your home that would increase the value by $5,000 or more, you should always let your insurance agent know.
I just
okay?
built a pole barn. Heads up.
Did you really?
Yes, I'm not kidding. Just while I'm thinking about
Another
it.
outbuilding to cover.
That's right. That's right. Okay. We can have a
Yeah.
side conversation and we need to make sure that's taken care of.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So yes.
Shit. Now I got to give you more money, Joel.
and make sure you tell everybody your rates just went down.
They did. And I also feel like I should tell everybody that the problems that I had with my claims not being covered was not with Joel's company. That's how I ended up with Joel, because I had multiple instances where shit went sideways to a degree that I called my insurance agent and he was like, I was like, wait, what, dude? I've been sending you money for 20 years and you're like,
Right.
What do you mean you forgot to add that coverage?
Well,
like, what the
yes.
fuck? And it was not Joel.
And that bears repeating. You need to have conversations with the people that you're buying service from, whether it's insurance or your financial advisor or your dentist or whatever it is, right? You want to make sure that those people know what's going on in your life. And it's not really the client's job to make that call as much as it is the insurance agent's job to make that call.
Sure.
We do that. I don't do that with you, Rachel, because I know I'm going to hear from you no matter what.
At least every 6 weeks or so, I feel like we've got something happens where I got to call and ask you a question.
But those are conversations, right? Hey, just want to check in, see how it's going, right? Yeah. And it's going good. Thanks. We're good. We don't need anything. Oh, we just bought this, or we're doing this now. Okay, great. Let's talk about that. So that's important. It's important because it's not just about sending money in.
Cassandra?
Can I go?
Yes.
I told you I wrote questions down. Joel, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not. Can we talk about the changing environment? Why the fuck any insurance company would cover a house where it keeps getting battered by hurricanes? I know FEMA steps in for floods, but I'm sure at some point you guys have to subsidize stuff too. It blows my mind they keep rebuilding over and over in the same spot.
It's tough.
Why? And I'm sure their premiums have gone up for the whole state, right?
Yeah.
Across the board?
Yeah. So I'll speak on a very high level, right? Because I don't write insurance in California and I don't write insurance in Texas or Florida, or along the East Coast where a lot of major weather events happen.
Are there areas in Michigan that would maybe mirror for us what goes on in those areas?
Not really. I think we did see, a big anomaly, in Midland, earlier this summer. I think that's a big anomaly. But I think around the Lansing area, and sometimes you see around the Thumb, like there's some flooding, from rivers, and so flood insurance is typically required in those areas, for lenders and for those loans. So it's kind of, for lack of a better term, dummy proof for a buyer, right? Not that buyers are dummies, but when someone says, look, you can't get this loan because you need flood insurance, then you're going to go buy flood insurance, right? And flood insurance is a whole nother topic that we could go down, but there's a huge market for that, meaning that anybody, as long as you're in a participating community, can buy flood insurance. You don't have to have a river down the road or major lake or whatever. So
also, little real estate side item, that a house that requires flood insurance usually is going to take a hit on the sale price because of
sure.
the perception, the perceived risk from the buyers.
Absolutely.
Less buyers want to live there.
Sure, absolutely.
Oceanfront aside or something like that.
Of course. Or on Lake Michigan, right? Or Lake Huron. Anyway, going back to your point, Cassandra, about these catastrophic areas, it's tough, and insurance companies, they charge accordingly. Like in Florida here, I'll give you a quick example. Farmers writes insurance in Florida, but they will not cover hurricane. So you have to buy hurricane insurance from a separate company, right? Some companies exclude wind. So you have to buy wind insurance from another company. And yes, go ahead.
So what if a hurricane came to Michigan? I know it's an outlandish concept. Am I covered?
Yes. Okay. Because the likelihood of that happening is low. We would say we understand, right, that is a situation that's going to happen. It's called a catastrophe, right? And we cover that. So all of these things that we're talking about, wildfires and, floods and whatnot, those are catastrophes. And so they are covered when it comes to that. So people who live in those areas understand, like, that call it the sunshine tax, right? That they're going to have to pay more for certain things in regards to getting the coverage that they need.
So if I lived in Florida, I would have limited coverage on my homeowners. If I wanted my whole house covered, I would have to buy wind coverage, hurricane coverage, flood insurance.
You could buy all of those things, right? So remember, I'm not a licensed agent in Florida, so I don't want to speak to that exactly. But
is there wildfire coverage?
No, it's just fire coverage. But in California, they use a thing called Fireline that helps. It's crazy, but it helps determine the rates and where you are and all of this. And you have to, if you live in certain areas in California, you get penalized if you don't keep your property up. Like if you don't keep the brush back and you don't maintain, your property, and it burns because of that, then there are sometimes situations where companies are not going to pay. Because if you don't take responsibility, and that's anything, right? Like the house I live in, if there's a hole in the roof and I don't fix it, and we get a rainstorm and water comes in, I can't call my insurance company, or I can't call myself and say, hey, I got to make a claim, right? Well, the adjuster's going to come out and be like, that's probably been happening for a few months now, and we're just not going to pay that. So, and that's, you guys mentioned earlier, I mean, that's essentially fraud, right? Me trying to report a claim that is not going to get covered because I didn't take care of my property.
Now, let's say on the other side of that, though, you had a hole in your roof and you didn't know because it's seeping in. And then one day you get a heavy rainstorm and your freaking ceiling collapses and you're like, holy shit, I had no idea.
Here's a good term that everybody should know when it comes to insurance: accidental and sudden. Insurance covers accidental and sudden, right? That is a big sticking point with like a leak that you may not know about.
Yeah,
right?
like I just got a new roof. Now let's say
you got all this stuff going on and you're not calling me.
Oh no, I did. You do. The new roof was from 2017, so you do know about that.
Newer
you
roof,
rated me accordingly. Yes, but my point is, with a 3-year-old roof, it would never even occur to me to go up there and look. But I could have a leak. I don't even have an attic, so there's a scuttle. There's no way for me to even check. So if my ceiling collapses due to just a slow, perpetual leak, you're telling me that you're not going to cover it? See, I'm pissed off about it again.
No, listen, this is okay. So let's talk about that, right? And again, I am not a claims adjuster, but let me tell you about my experience with something like that. All right. Yes. If we have a leak, right, most likely you are going to see a bubble in your ceiling at some point before it comes.
Wood.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
So water spots, something.
So the first time that you notice something, that's when we should act, right? Let's say you don't act, right? And we think this is something that's happened for a month or two, and all of a sudden you guys are watching TV and the roof, boom, caves in.
Right. Something, yeah.
Here's my experience on how something like that would be covered. The leaky part of your roof, which is probably typically going to be very small, right? Or a smaller area, right? Because the whole roof probably is not going to leak.
No.
We are
First, I'm
not.
suing the roof people.
Okay,
That's
so that's another part of our claim.
Okay.
But the first thing that we're going to tell you, Rachel, is you know what? This 2x2 area of your roof right here, we are not going to cover that. Okay.
Wow.
What we are going to cover is the sudden and accidental damage that the water pouring into your base or pouring into your home did cover. We will cover that.
You know what this feels like? My
What's
law
that?
class, because I'm getting my master's degree, which I love throwing into every conversation.
Right.
This is the only place that's valuable, is dropping it in a conversation. But we talk about like the value of a thumb, right? Like
Okay.
if you get injured on
Sure.
the job, they have to, like, the going rate for a thumb is around $30,000. And it's just a thing that actuaries know. And I feel like in the insurance world, the ability to prorate out the value of this 2x2 square of the roof that we're not going to cover is very similar to the value of a thumb that got cut off, right? Like,
I think that's a good way to relate it. Because in like I said, insurance companies are all over, accidental, sudden. Okay. But what we didn't discuss is, okay, you say this 2x2 area, right? Let's say your roof was put on, let's say in 1999. Let's just use that as an example. Okay. But we cannot find the actual shingles to match, right? Well, your policy has what's called limited matching on it, right? So even though we may not cover that 2x2 area for the damage that was done, most likely in this case, we're going to apply limited matching to your policy to make sure that your roof now completely matches, right? So, and we may put a whole slope on your home because of that, right? But we're not going to cover the 2x or the plywood that was underneath there. So you may have to come out of pocket $500, $600, but you just got to
buy a sheet of plywood lately. Holy shit!
Well, good point. Good point. But and it's so funny that we're talking about this. I just had a conversation with adjusters, and let me bring up a good point about me and my company. All of our adjusters are local. I know them. I have a relationship with them. So I call them like, hey, this is going on. What do you suggest? How do we handle this? Right. And I think that's a big thing in these days, knowing who to reach out to when something's going on and we're not calling into a call center. All of my clients are calling me. Hey, this just happened. Right. You're stuck on the side of the road. You're calling me. I need a tow. What do I do? So we make that happen. Right.
This is so much like, you can, I don't know, you can use an iBuyer to sell your house. You could you could apply for a mortgage through a portal. You can get insurance online, and it becomes very much one of those things that if you are the super rare scenario where there's nothing unique going on, that could probably work.
Absolutely.
But when you need something, it just sucks.
Yeah. And I love, and I think it's true with all of us. And we have a network of people, right? If something goes on, you know who to reach out to. And so I have that locally with farmers, which I really appreciate. Yeah. And we just had a situation, and the claim adjuster told me this. He goes, we are not looking to, for lack of better terms, screw a client. We are searching the policy to find a way to pay the claim. Quick little story. A guy, not my client, but a friend of mine insures a guy. 2 cars. One of them was in storage, which means he just had it parked. He wasn't using it. Well, he had a little too much to drink the night before, took an Uber home, thought it would be really cool. I'll just jump in my car that I was sitting here in my home to go get my other car. On the way to pick up his other car, he has an accident. He rear ends somebody in a car that did not have any coverage on it. And he isn't as concerned about his car as he is the other people, right? Because now all of a sudden this becomes like a liability legal situation. And the other agent calls me and they're like, what should we do? I call my friend and he's like, look, file the claim. We want to pay if we can pay. We are not trying to say, no, we're not going to pay. But until we look at it and examine it and go through the policy, we have no idea. So company, no matter what company you're with, they are not trying to screw you.
They're not trying to do what I thought.
Right. If there's coverage, they're going to pay out. If there's not coverage, they're not.
A couple of things before we go too much further. We're past time. Are you guys both okay going a little bit further? Because I know Cassandra did come in with a
I have
list
another
of questions.
question.
Well, before you do that,
I'm good.
We have a comment from Amy, and I kind of agree with this. So maybe we can tack this on at the end.
Sure.
I also think insurance seems like a racket, but she says, also expect your policy cost to increase every time you use it. And that is feels like a motherfucker.
So I don't think that's true all the time. Insurance companies, look at it like this. If you have an accident and your car is totaled, right? Let's say it's a $30,000 car and the company cuts you a check for 29 grand.
Mm-hmm.
In that situation, the insurance company is not going to whack you for a 100% increase trying to recoup
Get their money back.
$30,000. They're not going to do that.
Okay, so I was at a stoplight and the guy in front of me threw his car in reverse and backed his ball hitch right through the front bumper of my car, and my fucking premium went up.
Yep.
Are you fucking kidding me right now?
So this is all right. This is a what's the word I'm looking for? An attribute is not the word, but this is a result of the laws that are in Michigan. Okay. Michigan is a no-fault state, which means that every insurance company pays for their client in a damage situation. Yeah. So whatever insurance company you were with paid that claim.
Yeah.
Right. So that claim or that money went directly against the loss ratio. So it shows up on your driving record as a not at fault accident. Right.
Yeah.
Company paid out. When a company pays out, you are going to see some sort of indication of rate. Okay. Yeah. So most of the time.
Point.
Well, but Amy's point also is, or let's think about this. Do you want insurance companies to continue to pay for an accident?
Go ahead, Cassandra.
So, I was going to say,
go ahead.
In my house, I'm totally going to use my house. In my house that I'm currently in, actually, I'll go back to my very first house. Let's say I've been paying $1,000 a year since I first owned a house, so 20 years, right?
Sure.
And as part of my monthly payment, whatever, I've paid out $20,000. Oh my
Correct.
fucking God. I had a claim on my roof when a tree hit it. I had a flood in my basement when my gasket to the outside of my spigot exploded. Like, we had no idea. We turned it on in the spring. I mean, They have already paid out way more than I've paid in already, and my premium hasn't gone up. Like, I'm happy to have insurance. I don't think it's a racket. It's there when I need it for fucked up shit. Not to mention if somebody drowns in my pool, that's what you know what I mean? I have insurance for that shit to protect me against the outside elements. I'm on your side, Joel.
Well, and I think, here's what I hear a lot is a client will call me, hey, I just took an increase on my auto insurance. What's going on? I haven't had any accidents. I haven't had any tickets. And that is a valid statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
I totally get that. And the thing that I try to let people understand is again, and I try to keep it very simple because that's what we do, right? Is when you're in the same pool with somebody else who just like you, Cassandra, right, had $40,000 worth of claims. Okay, if I'm with the same company that you're with, right there, that money to pay those claims comes from somewhere, right? And so you're like in a big pool, and I always say that And
Yeah,
sometimes the pool gets really dirty and yucky and nasty.
and
And
then you have to get in a
sometimes
different pool.
you got to get out of the pool. That's right.
How do you get
So
into
I
a
was
different
gonna-
pool?
Hold on.
You
I
go
was
to a
gonna
different
ask you.
company.
I was going to ask you to talk about this because
Yeah.
if you end up in a pool that's full of pee, you got to go find a different fucking pool to swim in.
Yep.
And you explained this to me years ago, and I love it.
And and here's another way to look at it too is you guys, and I know you've done this, Rachel, like when you're driving or you guys are like on your motorcycle and you're driving through Kentucky, like, and you're going and you see these limestone, like along the highway, that's kind of like insurance, or a cake has layers, right? Sometimes when you get into an insurance company, you end up in a layer, right? And then after a while, they create another layer, and that layer has different rates. And so sometimes you got to get out of where you are and you got to go into another layer. And it's really, I don't want, like my clients, like, I don't want you calling another company and shopping me around, right? So that's why we talk, and I try to do the service that I can, but sometimes you got to shop as a client or as a consumer.
To be clear, I do shop you, and you know it. And I like that when shit is going to get weird, I'm going to call you.
Right. And
because
that's a
I got a flat tire and I'm like, what do I do? Or, I mean, can I tell a hypothetical story about maybe if my car got hit in a parking lot and I called you and said, should I even make a claim on this? Like, I don't want to hurt my fucking rate over a $300 repair.
Right. And we talk about that. And that's why I ask all the clients to call me. Tell me what's happening. Tell me what's going on. Right now, if your house is, well, yeah, right. So if your house is on fire, you need to be calling 911, and then I need to be your second call, right? If you're in a bad accident, you call in the ambulance, and then let me be your second call, because let me help facilitate this for you. Because first of all, you're busy. You don't have time to do this. You don't want to do this. And it's why you hired me.
So, and that's it. And to Cassandra's already made point, if I am buying my insurance online just to check the box and be legal,
right,
then I don't have somebody to call. I could hurt myself by taking blind action, because what do you do when you get in an accident? You call your insurance company and submit a claim. Well, the answer is always, it depends.
Yeah, and it does. And I hate to sound like that, but it's true. Because stuff happens, and sometimes people are like, look, I'll pay $200. So, and we talk about deductibles too, right? When we're talking insurance and people are coming to me, we talk deductibles. And it's basically like, what's your threshold for pain? Like, how much do you want to pay?
Cassandra? All right, Joel, sorry. We're now 11:25, and I know Cassandra had a list. So Cassandra, it's the Cassandra show. Go.
Okay, I worked in the vast majority of them. So one of the questions was, what do you need to quote accurately? Honestly, the appraisal is it.
Say that again.
And I have sent those.
Your audio is super funky.
One of my questions, the appraisal is really important. He needs to know, like, the shit about the house. Okay.
Oh,
your
I can hear you.
Was so fucky. Could you hear her, Joel?
No, I just got appraisal, and that's it.
You were very robotic.
Okay. Is it still terrible?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right. So I'll just go for my last question. I'll just go the last question. Which one?
Do both of them. We got nothing but time.
How much is the multi-policy discount really?
Okay,
if I'm in a pool, regardless, why does it matter if I'm in different pools? Why does it matter? How much is it?
Well, you're in the, like, when you come to Farmers Insurance, you're in that pool, right? So, insurance companies want all of the business, right? Sure. They want your home, your auto, and it's not for what most people believe, right? When we know what you have, stop with that, right? So when we know what you have, it helps me protect you a little bit better, okay? Now, when the multi-policy discount with us is somewhere between 25 and 30%. Okay. But there are a lot of factors that go into that, but that's a pretty good number to start with. Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. I just quoted somebody and $1,000 auto or home premium. I took the auto discount off. It was 20. It went up to $1,294. So that's, that's about 20. Is that 29.4%? I don't know. I'm not that great at math, but
I'm confused.
I'd say that's pretty good math.
What was the policy? It was $1,000.
It was a home
and it went
premium
to 12
because I took off their auto discount because they may not.
It jumped. Got it.
Yep, it went up. So that kind of answers the question there. But there are a lot of factors that go into that. So
do the other question though, Cassandra, the one that you got Harbally on, because it's appraisal. This is a real estate show, and I care about this because I never.
Okay.
I advise my clients not to give their insurance agent dick.
No.
Yeah.
So if you want Joel to be able to give you the right price, you got to let them know you got a new roof. You got to let them know there's a fucking brand new pole barn on it. Like they want to see the appraisal report. It has all of the stuff. And I don't know that they look at the houses nearby that it's being compared to, but they look at the fit and finish. I imagine you look at the rating on it that the appraiser gives it. Like you're really valuing it. It's like trying to trade in your car and just clicking, it's in excellent shape when it's really a beater.
Right.
Like the appraisal report gives him so much information.
Yeah. So, and it gives me the accurate square feet. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, this is how we roll. What if it's an FHA appraisal and it says needs a hand railing and GFIs in the kitchen and a scrape and paint on the front door? Now you saw those things. I don't want you to see those.
He doesn't care like the lender cares.
How would I know that unless I ask him, which is what I'm doing right now.
So what I'm looking for, right, is square footage, year built, updates.
A boiler.
When's the last time? Like, is it forced air? Is it a boiler? Do we have air conditioner? How many of those do we have? Right, that makes a difference. And the handrail thing, that may be something I need to know because I may need to point that out to the client. Like, you got to put a handrail up because if you don't, we're going to cancel your policy.
If the appraiser calls it out, then we can't close until it gets fixed. Anyway, I had a client give their insurance agent the fucking inspection report one time. That was awesome. Like the inspector's job is to tell you 37 pages of what's wrong with your house.
Right.
Don't give that to your insurance guy.
But I'm going to tell you, the things that affect like the liability portion of the policy, like we need to know that. And like you said, if there's no handrail and you have to have a handrail up before it closes, well, when we come out to inspect, the handrail is going to be there. So it's not even an issue. Right. So some of the things that you're doing are actually helping the client in an insurance scenario. But I do like to see the pictures of the inside because they are taking, very accurate things instead of what I see on Zillow or Redfin or whatever.
What if the house has 10-inch original oak baseboards and you know what I mean? Some things that were really not apparent in bad listing photos. And he looks and goes, holy shit, it's going to cost $100,000 in trim to do that ceiling and the base and all just the trim work in the house or something.
Right.
I mean, he has no way of knowing that. In addition to like the age, I mean, we won't even talk about fireplaces, wood burners and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Those all have an effect when it comes to that. And then here's the thing is a lot of times when I'm dealing with a situation where someone's buying a home, I'm never dealing with husband and wife. I'm either dealing with wife or I'm dealing with husband.
Me too.
Right. So I always ask, and we'll use your 10-inch oak baseboards. I know you always get both, but if we're using 10-inch oak baseboards and I'm dealing with husband and I'm like, look, man, this is what we got, and this is what it's going to cost to do that. And he's like, oh, that's too expensive. I'm like, well, do you want those 10-inch baseboards back? And he's like, I don't. And I'm like, guess what? Your wife does. That's probably why you're buying the house. So let's really think about what we're talking about here, right?
And because to be clear, it could be wife and wife, husband and husband.
Of course, 100%. Yep, it could be boyfriend, girlfriend, right? Whatever. It doesn't matter. but making sure, I always try to do that. I'm like, let's look at it from somebody else's perspective, because what's important to you may not be important to somebody else, but at the end, it all is important. So
what else do you have, Cassandra?
Okay, so I have one more question, and I think I know the answer just based on our conversation. So say I have a claim on my house, and it's an act of God versus a claim on my house, which is my negligence.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of the type of claim, let's just say you paid out on both because your company is amazing. There's a pretty good chance that my premium will go up, whether it was an act of God or I was negligent, correct? Is one more likely to make my increase, or any claim regardless of how it happened?
It depends on what we're talking about. And I hate to say that, but like the severity.
It's like always
right?
the answer to everything.
I know. It depends.
It's true. It's true. Are we talking about here's a good one. Okay. So a natural, right? I mean, what if somebody fell in your pool and drowned? That's a liability claim, right? That affects your rate differently than a windstorm coming and blowing your roof off, right? That's different. So here's the thing. I know we're running low on time, but I always want to make this point when I'm in a situation where I can talk to people about what insurance really is about.
Parting words.
Insurance is about the things that ruin your life, not your day.
Oh, I like that a
So,
lot. Did you make that up or steal it from someone?
I actually stole that from somebody a long time ago, but it's so relevant, right?
Yes.
And forgive me, I do not remember the young lady's name who made the comment about insurance rates going up, right?
Amy.
When Amy made that comment, and she's right. I'm not going to deny that. Here's the thing. You probably would take a 2%, 3% increase on your auto insurance because of your bumper or deer hit or whatever. In the event in that accident that someone was killed or injured and you do not have the right liability amounts, that's going to ruin your life. Because if you get sued and you are not prepared for that through your insurance, they will take your money. So that is something. You work hard. Everybody's on here. We all work hard, right? I don't want anybody taking my money away from me. So I want to make sure I'm carrying the right coverage, the right liability stuff. What do you got, Cassandra?
Sorry, I told you I have a lot. This is just a question. So Michigan, this is an auto question. Michigan recently changed the auto insurance because heaven forbid we have unlimited medical to take care of you.
Right.
So what is the percentage of people that actually took that coverage away? I didn't. I was like, I'm used to paying it. I'll take the coverage. Thank you very much. But were people calling you? Were they expecting like hundreds of dollars discount? What was it? What did it look like on your end?
Okay, so that's a really good question. When this was proposed, right, over a year ago, and legislature said, look, everybody's going to see this discount, your premiums are going down, all this kind of stuff. Well, guess what? Your premiums did decrease, but they only decreased through the medical portion of the policy, right? So if you chose to take lesser coverage, then your premium did go down, right? 10%, 20%, whatever that number was, okay? When we actually started breaking it down for people are doing exactly what you're talking about, Cassandra.
Like $30
I can save $30 a month, right? To take, $500,000 worth of coverage. Okay, that's $360 a year. That's nothing, right?
That's
nothing.
I'm
not saying,
if you need it.
360 is 360. I get it all day long, right? I mean, that's fine. But so what it does really is put some focus on what's your health insurance like? What's it really going to cover, right? Do you want to be in a position where you don't have the coverage anymore? I don't know, right? So that's a personal decision. What I do is I lay it out line by line and say, look, this is what we're looking at, and this is what you would be at. So I've had, out of all of my clients, I've had one auto insurance customer tell me they wanted to opt out completely of the PIP.
I was going to ask you, did I opt out? I don't think I did, but damn,
you did not.
Okay.
No, you're unlimited.
20-year-old?
No, it's actually a guy who has 15 cars, and he is so consumed with all these fees that he pays and all this stuff, and that's his gig. That's whatever.
Sure.
So he opted out, and ultimately he's probably going to save $1,200 a year. That's a big deal to him. Okay, I get it, man. All right, no big deal, right? So very few of my clients are taking reduced coverage. Very few. And I think it's smart because nobody knows what's going to happen. People who are on Medicaid or Medicare right now, and if they opt out or take a lower amount of coverage, they're depending on the government to pay them or pay out their medical bills, right?
But if I'm a senior, Trump will send me a card with $200 on it in exchange for his vote. So
for your prescriptions. So that's
it.
So, or your glasses.
Is that really happening? Oh my God.
Appears to be. So so that's a very short answer to your PIP question.
No, that was helpful. I wondered if people were like, ready to see this huge savings, because I looked at mine and I was like, I'm not fucking getting rid of that. If something happens and I need medical care, like, that's kind of a big deal. It's amazing to have.
Right. And I will say this, although I don't appreciate the way that all of this was communicated from Lansing, I don't appreciate because it came across as this huge savings for everybody. What I do appreciate is the systems they put in place that every insurance company uses to communicate what would happen to your policy in the event you take these coverages, in the event that you take lesser, right?
Oh, the form. I got a form. Is it the form letter that came on front? Okay.
Exactly. And it's good. And it's worded in a way that says, look, if you do this, this could happen to you. Because, and again, I don't want to take up a bunch of time, but let's say a person like my guy who has 15 cars, he opts out of all the medical, okay? He gets into an accident and he gets hurt really bad. What he could say is like, I even though I signed the forms, I had no idea that that's what that meant, right? And so he then could go against the person that hit him and sue him. That's when the other person's bodily injury limit kicks in. And let's say that guy doesn't have enough or that girl doesn't have enough. Now, all of a sudden, they've got a lawsuit against them. And, there's a lot of scenarios that can play out here. And that's why it's important that you talk to your insurance agent. What are my bodily injury limits like? How does that work? How does that work with uninsured motorists? And these are all things that you guys don't care anything about. Nothing. Because you want to make sure that you want your agent to help you with that and explain that to you. And even though it's not a fun conversation or exciting and you're not getting a big prize at the end, it's important. It's important because if you've got money saved up or you have equity in your home, that can be gone in a second if you're found legally liable for an auto accident. So that's a big deal. A big deal.
So we are so far over time. I feel like we should do a part 2 on the insurance conversation. Seriously, because like the things we were going to talk about, I think we touched on 2 of them. Right? Like, why do you need insurance? What does it look like on the back end? I thought maybe we could talk about like what Cassandra needs when you're buying a house. So I'm going to request you to join us again, Joel. Maybe not next week because whatever we talked about earlier, I said would be a good topic, but maybe the week after that. I don't know.
We talked about low loan amounts.
Oh yeah. How to borrow less money. Loan amounts.
I need to be on that call too. Meaning because I need to learn. There's a bottom.
It's cool. Anyway, so it's 11:40. I am like freaking out about time. So thank you so much, Joel. This helped a ton. We also need to talk privately, apparently. Thank you for coming with questions, Cassandra.
Anytime you guys want, I will come on or whatever. I've been following you around. I think you guys are doing an awesome job. I love listening to you banter and go back and forth. It's almost like your sisters. So, but anyway, so you guys have a great rest of the day. And anybody who's watching or whatever just wants to talk insurance, I mean, just Facebook message me. You can text me.
Put your number in the comments, Joel. When we get off, go to the show and
Joel's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. You guys are great and very appreciative. I'm appreciative of you too. So just let me know if you need anything.
You're
Have a
awesome,
great
Joel. Thank you.
Friday. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Right.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a
All
good
right.
weekend.
You too. Bye.